So, one of the things that people often say is that when they try to assert a boundary, they come across very reactive, very firm, very forceful, maybe even abrupt. And so, we want to get to the bottom of how to assert a boundary in a way that is healthy, in a way that is very matter of fact, without the emotional connection to it. But there is a good reason for why this abruptness happens when asserting a boundary, where you feel frustrated or agitated. And that has to do with childhood wounds that have yet to be fully integrated, resolved, healed, and transmuted. So, as a life coach who specializes in inner child reconnection and reparenting, this is definitely a topic in my wheelhouse. And the reason why I'm bringing it to you is because many of my clients want to learn how to assert healthy boundaries, and that's what they come to me to learn how to do. However, when it comes down to actually doing this, they feel their nervous system kick in and they get all agitated and they're in go mode and they want to fight instead of asserting a boundary quickly, succinctly, and gracefully. So let's get into why and the causes for this abruptness, right? So people who are out there doing the work, you're watching these types of videos, you want to have this kind of information. You're like, yeah, I want to be able to assert a boundary, but I don't want to mow people over. I don't want to take an anvil and drop an anvil on people or bomb, right? You just want to kind of roll the way you roll and be very natural about it, very matter of fact. So number one is a difficulty trusting others. So if a person as a child experienced neglect, abuse, inconsistency, they developed a mistrust of other people. Right? So if you're kind of like the older people around me, I can't really trust them. They don't really make me feel safe. This can make setting boundaries feel like an act of self-protection as opposed to a healthy form of communication. So this puts you guarded. This puts you on, I'm on guard, right? Fists are up in that kind of energetic posture. And this leads to abruptness because when you feel like you're in this posture and you're threatened and unsafe in any way, you react quickly, very reactionary, forcefully. It's all about being guarded, right? So you're coming at it from a place of woundedness because you're feeling threatened and so you're ready to fight. So this leads to a very abrupt or more defensive type of boundary setting. And it's simply a way of you just protecting yourself. And so to work on that would require reconnecting with the version of yourself, probably a younger child version of you or a teenager version of you, who experienced this neglect, abuse, inconsistency, and show up for them being their sole guide, provider, decision maker, leader, right? So you're now the adult in charge. And so now this wounded version of you, they're not the one going and asserting the boundary. Now you are from your adult place, your adult energy. So let's move on to another one, the fear of being overpowered or invalidated. This is when you as a child felt very powerless. If you were ignored, if you were invalidated, if you had emotions and they weren't fully expressed, you weren't able to say that you were angry, that you were sad, that things happened in school and you're out of sorts and feeling overwhelmed with homework. It was always be quiet, be out of the way. You don't want to be overpowered or invalidated. So you just keep things quiet, keep things buried. And so it leads to abruptness as adults because you struggle with asserting yourself in a calm way, right? And the abruptness is usually to become more aggressive to just make sure that you're heard. You just want to be seen and heard. And so that little wounded inner child is stomping their feet. They're being kind of abrupt and they're being kind of, aggressive. And it's only an indicator that you are coming at boundaries not from your adult self, but from a wounded child. And so inner child work helps you to connect with that version of yourself who's coming at these interactions very young and wounded, right? So that you can handle all that so that then you can come at the interactions from an adult position. It's very confident, it's very empowering, and then you're able to really assert boundaries that people can take seriously. Number 3, overwhelm or emotional dysregulation. So trauma affects the nervous system. And whenever the nervous system gets jacked out, triggered, you dysregulate. Everyone does this, it's normal. And so people who have experienced prolonged trauma, meaning like CPTSD, for example, chronic post-traumatic stress disorder, just long decades of history of this type of abuse, they will be very overwhelmed by emotions. This is where you become dysregulated. You kind of disconnect from your emotions, disconnect from yourself. You get into like the floaty zone. And so this leads to abruptness when establishing a boundary because they're flooded with emotions. It's too much emotion, it's too big, and it's just overwhelm. And so it's a blunt response to get out of there, right? You just can't manage your emotions effectively because, again, it's not you watching the video, it's little baby you over here, right? Little toddler you, or child under age 10 or teenager, right? That's the version of you who is in control, running the show. And because you're watching this video, you are taking the first step to get out of that, to be able to show up to the inner child, tell them, it's okay, I love you so much. No one will love you more than I ever, nor should they. And I got it from here. What do you need from me? What do you need from me to feel safe and protected and guided? And when you start to have those types of conversations with your inner child, and I have a whole process that I teach, and if you want information on that, check out the link in the description below. There is a free love life assessment that I offer that gets you started on this work, and you're going to want to check that out for sure. So the other one to really connect with here is the fear of rejection or abandonment. This one is super popular with the people that I coach. It's definitely a thing. The root cause, it's when you were a child, it's a fear of abandonment. If you had neglect or rejection during formative years, figure infancy until like age 21. To me, those are the formative years. People say, no, it's only like the first 12 years. No, there's a whole lot. Like your brain is still forming and developing fully until you're something like, mid-20s. Right? So it's forming. As long as you're still forming, there's stuff going on there that you need to be attending to, right? And if parents are not tending to those emotional needs, nurturing their kids the right way when they're young, and who does, right? You'll grow up with this fear of abandonment. And so when you have a fear of abandonment, you might assert a boundary in a very exaggerated way, thinking that being super firm and super abrupt is the only way to stay in control. So people who have rejection fear or fear of abandonment, they crave control. So they might believe that if they come at boundaries in a softer way, in a more neutral way, that their feelings will be ignored, that their needs will be ignored. So again, they're very like in your face, like this is how this is going to be, very straight up. And for some people, it could be like, whoa, like it's very confrontational, right? So those are the 4 biggies. There are others. I may do a follow-up to this video to include others. There are many reasons for why, there are causes for why people are so reactionary and just not able to assert a boundary from a place of neutrality, which is powerful. People listen to you more and they accept the request the first time when you're able to assert a boundary from a healthy, mature adult place and not the wounded inner child, right? So we want to make sure that you are mindful and conscious that you are operating from adult, or am I operating from inner 14-year-old, inner 6-year-old? So that just, requires you to have some reflection. So if any of this resonated with you and you'd like more information and to get started on really getting these boundaries tight, right? So that you could assert boundaries and get your needs met, feel free to reach out to me at LoveQuestCoaching.com. The link is below in the description. And also help me so much if you like this video and subscribe so that then you are alerted when this party gets started. And I post videos on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. Thanks so much. I'm Lisa, the Love Coach. Look forward to checking out you again soon.